Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Positive Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Parmis Najmi, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to listen to more episodes like this one on self-improvement, mindset, and wellness, go ahead and hit that follow button to join the family. Before I get into today's episode, I just want to ask you guys for a quick and kind favor, and that is if you haven't yet left a review, I would absolutely appreciate if you could do so. It helps so much to build this podcast and help it grow so that we can increase the positive impact we make and just overall make it a bigger community. Also, if you are looking for daily motivation, follow me on Instagram at Positive Proof Podcast, where I post behind the scenes content and daily quotes that serve as sweet daily reminders. And if anyone is wondering how to leave episode requests, you can send me your thoughts via the DM me your thoughts link in the description or just via Instagram DM as well. Okay, so this episode is for the girls who have been in their soft season but want to take it to the next level. The kind of girl who wants to walk into a room and feel quietly powerful without saying a word. We're talking feminine habits, yes, but through the lens of real life etiquette, not the fake, overly polished version you'd read in old-timey etiquette books, but actual modern day practices that make you feel like you have your life together, even if no one else notices the little things. Because here's the thing, femininity isn't just about being pretty or soft or delicate, despite popular belief. It's about presence, and it's about the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with others, just the way you exist in this world. And those habits, those small, subtle, often overlooked choices are what shape your energy. Feminine etiquette is less about rules and more about the feeling that you leave behind. It's that lingering sense of grace and elegance that people can't quite put their finger on, but always remember. So if you're someone who already values self-respect and softness but wants to refine your presence, or maybe you're just curious what kind of habits actually make a difference in how you show up, this episode is going to feel like a little guidebook. We're going to walk through tangible things like, how you eat, how you dress, how you communicate, and talk about why these habits are way more powerful than we think. No fluff, no perfection, just grounded, elegant energy that feels like you. So get comfy, maybe grab your favorite drink, and let's talk about the real everyday feminine habits that are subtle but transformative. Let's start with the one that seems basic, but it's about food. And it's not in a what to eat way, but in a how you eat way. I used to never think about this, and I just order what sounded good on the menu and devour it like I hadn't eaten in days, and low-key end of the meal feeling bloated and a little chaotic. And look, we've all had those moments. You're starving, the food is bomb, and you're just in it. So no judgment to you, I've been there. But if you're trying to embody that soft feminine energy, the kind that feels present and grounded, the way you eat matters more than we realize. So first off, let's be real. Some foods are just not meant for elegant moments, like giant saucy burgers that drip everywhere, ribs that need a full roll of paper towels, or anything you need to physically wrestle with to eat. Maybe save those for home. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because messy meals don't match calm energy. There's nothing feminine about wiping your mouth every 2 seconds or praying you don't get a stain on your outfit. And then there's the overeating part. Again, this isn't about being restrictive or trying to shrink yourself. It's about listening to your body, feeling that fullness start to kick in and allowing yourself to pause. You don't have to eat everything on the plate just because it's there. You can enjoy your meal and leave a few bites behind without guilt. There is just something so quietly powerful about eating slowly and choosing intentionally and leaving the table feeling light and nourished. And it's a signal to yourself that you don't operate from lack, you operate from trust. You trust your body, your cues, and your ability to say, that's enough for now. Moving on to point number 2, this one absolutely changed my life, and it's learning how to say no without explaining myself to death. We've all been there. Someone invites you to something you're not feeling or asks a favor and that doesn't align, and suddenly you're crafting an Oscar-worthy monologue in your head about why you can't do it. You're stressed, overthinking every word, making sure it sounds valid enough. But here's the thing. Polite doesn't mean apologetic, and feminine doesn't mean over-explaining. There is just something so elegant about simply saying, thank you so much for thinking of me, but I won't be able to make it. That's it. That's the whole sentence. You're not obligated to tell them why. You don't have to say your dog's sick or your cousin's in town or you're swamped with work unless you want to. A confident woman doesn't rush to justify her boundaries. She trusts that no is a complete sentence, especially when it's delivered with warmth. And when you stop over-explaining, you stop inviting people to question you. When you give people too much detail, it opens the door for negotiation. And then suddenly you're caught in a cycle of defending your time, your energy, your priorities. It's exhausting. So the next time you feel the pressure bubbling up, the one that says you can't just say no, I want you to breathe and try the simple version. Respectful, kind, and firm. It's a quiet form of power that honestly takes practice, but once you master it, you will never go back. And saying no isn't rude. You're an adult, and protecting your peace doesn't require permission slips. Feminine energy thrives in boundaries, and this is one of the most graceful ones that you can set. Moving on to point number 3. This one's underrated, but it makes such a difference. And it's not to shout someone's name across the room and to just walk over. I know it seems small, and honestly, we've all done it. I've done it. You're at a party or at a crowded event, you see your friend or someone you know, and the default is to yell their name to get their attention. But here's the thing, yelling, even if it's friendly, it disrupts the energy. It's loud, it's rushed, and it instantly puts you in a grab attention mode instead of carry presence mode. Feminine energy doesn't chase. It draws in, and there is something so composed about quietly walking over, tapping someone gently, or just making eye contact with a soft smile until they notice you. It doesn't make you invisible, it makes you intentional. You're not trying to prove you belong, you're already there, and that confidence speaks volumes. I've also noticed that when I walk over instead of calling out, it creates a moment. A pause. You're entering their space and you're not demanding their attention. You come across as grounded, collected, and present. It's a totally different vibe than waving your arms from across the room yelling, "Hey girl." And let's be real, the girls who walk into a room and carry themselves with quiet grace, they're not the loudest ones. They don't need to be. They choose their energy. You don't need to fight for attention when your presence already holds weight. So next time you catch yourself about to call out to someone, stop for a second and ask yourself, what would feel softer? Because sometimes the most feminine thing you can do is simply not be loud. Moving on to point number 4, we're going to talk about revealing clothing, and this might be controversial, but I want to approach this one with zero shame or finger wagging. This isn't about modesty rules or anyone telling you how much skin is too much. It's about energy. That is all. And I needed that disclaimer out there. And it's okay to disagree with some of these points, guys. The beauty in all this is that you get to choose which one of these points to adopt and which ones not to. So to elaborate further, there is a big difference between dressing to feel confident and dressing to be seen. And only you know which one you're doing in the moment. We've all had those nights where we're in a tight dress or a crop top and it feels so us. We feel powerful, feminine, even sexy, and it's totally authentic. But then there are times we wear the same thing and deep down we're kind of hoping it gets us attention. And that is the difference. Feminine energy isn't about covering up. It's about owning your presence. Sometimes that looks like a bodycon dress and heels. Other times it looks like a flowy blouse and wide leg trousers. It's not about how much you reveal. It's about what you're revealing. Are you showing confidence, poise, self-respect, or just a lot of skin with no depth behind it? Some of the most magnetic women I know don't show much at all, and yet when they walk into a room, people look. Not because of cleavage or curves, but because their energy is rich, they're styled, they're composed, they're intentional, there's mystery, and that's what's attractive. So if you love low-cut or fitted looks, amazing. Just ask yourself, do I feel like me in this, or do I feel like I'm dressing for outside validation? Dress however you feel grounded in your feminine energy. But remember, the most captivating woman is the one who doesn't need to reveal everything to be unforgettable. Moving on to point number 5, a lot of people might be guilty of this. It's one of the simplest but most slept on feminine habits, which is being on time. I know, life happens. Traffic, last minute outfit changes, the classic I thought it would only take 10 minutes to get here moment. We have all been there, but being on time is less about being perfect and more about the energy it communicates. I respect your time and I respect mine too. This is actually also one of my biggest pet peeves because I myself consider myself a pretty punctual person. And so when I find other people are repeatedly late, I find that a form of disrespect. And so it's one of those habits that feels so subtle, but instantly changes how people experience you. Showing up on time tells the world, I'm reliable, I'm organized, I'm dependable, I follow through. And honestly, it builds trust. whether it's a job interview, a date, or brunch with a friend. But here's where the feminine part comes in. When you're early or on time, you get to arrive without the frazzled, rushed, breathless energy that comes from always running behind. You walk into the room calmly, you sit with grace, you're not apologizing the moment you walk in, you're just there in your full presence, and that's powerful. Being late every now and then doesn't make you a bad person, but making it a habit can unintentionally give off the vibe that you're disorganized or disconnected, even if that's not true. It just makes you look like you don't have your life together. And when you're working on stepping into your elevated, intentional era, those details matter. So build in a buffer, check traffic beforehand, lay your outfit out the night before, give yourself the gift of time, not just for them, but for you, because nothing feels better than showing up a few minutes early, calm, composed, and totally aligned. Punctuality isn't rigid, it's respectful. And it's one of those habits that people don't always praise you for, but they always notice. Now let's talk about point number 6, which is something that doesn't get enough credit as a feminine habit, which is not taking things personally. This is my absolute favorite because I preach this through everything I do and just my entire life in general. And I know this is easier said than done, especially if you're sensitive or intuitive, which a lot of feminine women are, but you walk into a room and you feel things. The vibe is off, someone's energy shifts, and they didn't text you back. And suddenly your mind is filling in the blanks. Did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Did I come off weird? But here's the truth that changed everything for me. Most of the time, it's not about you. People are carrying stress, insecurity, distractions, and full-blown emotional baggage that has nothing to do with you. And the more you learn to detach, the more peace you'll have, and the more magnetic you become. There's just something so elevated about a woman who doesn't flinch at small sights, who doesn't spiral because someone used a dry tone or didn't invite her somewhere. She observes, she takes notes, but she doesn't immediately internalize. That's what self-trust is. And it's not about being cold or distant. It's about being centered. Feminine energy is sensitive, yes, but when it's healthy, not reactive. It's wise. It knows when to lean in and when to pull back. It knows the difference between someone else's mood and your own worth. So the next time something stings, like a comment, a look, a vibe shift, pause, ask yourself, is this about me, or is this just something I noticed? And if you don't know for sure, let it go. Your peace matters more than being right, because being feminine doesn't mean being soft for everyone. It means being soft with boundaries. And one of the best boundaries you can set is, I will no longer take everything so personally. Now I want to talk about number 7, which is cussing. Now, I'm not here to pretend I've never dropped an F-bomb. I absolutely have, and sometimes regularly do, and sometimes it hits. You know, you're venting to your best friend, you stub your toe, you're telling a story, and you need that one spicy word to land the punchline. I get it. I hear you. I'm not anti-swearing, but I have learned that how often I use those words directly affects how I show up. Think about it. When every sentence is laced with swearing, it starts to lose impact. It's like background noise. It becomes part of your rhythm instead of part of your message. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with cussing, it does carry a certain energy. You know, it's sharp, it's reactive, sometimes careless, and that's not always the vibe I want to lead with. Feminine energy is about softness, intention, and presence. And the words you use, they set the tone. You can still be funny, you can still be real, even intense, without peppering your sentences with profanity. In fact, when you save those words for moments that truly call for them, they actually land better. They have weight. It's also how you carry yourself in different spaces. You never know who's listening. You know, a client, a mentor, your future self, and the woman I'm becoming, she doesn't need shock value to make a point. She chooses her words with care. She speaks with impact, not impulse. So again, this isn't about being ladylike in some outdated, rigid way. It's just about using your voice as a tool, not a reflex. Swearing less doesn't make you less real. It makes you more refined. And that quiet elegance, that's the kind of feminine habit that speaks volume without needing to shout. Point number 8, we're going to have a real moment. How many of us reach for our phone the second there's a pause in a conversation, or when we're waiting for our food to come? It's become such a reflex that we barely notice it. But trust me, Everyone else does. I actually notice this every single time I'm out for dinner with someone, and it is my pet peeve. There is something really jarring about being out with someone who keeps glancing at their screen or texting mid-meal. Even if they're not doing it to be rude, it gives off this feeling of like I'm half here and half somewhere else. And this is coming from someone who is a content creator and is always on their phone and always has notifications to attend to. And if you're trying to embody feminine energy, the soft, magnetic kind, that starts with being fully present. The girls who carry themselves with grace aren't glued to their phones. They're here. They make eye contact. They sip their drink slowly. They actually listen when you talk, and it's rare, which is why it's powerful. Because we live in a world where constant distraction is the norm, and choosing to be focused, grounded, and intentional, that's the flex. I'm not saying you can never check your phone. Obviously, life happens. I get busy sometimes and I need to multitask. But try leaving it in your bag when you're out with someone, or turning it face down on the table if you're waiting on something urgent. The difference it makes in your presence is wild. People feel more connected to you. You feel more connected to yourself. Plus, it gives your nervous system a break. You stop the endless scroll. You stop searching for stimulation, and you start practicing this quiet kind of stillness that's honestly so underrated. So next time you're at lunch or even just talking to someone you love, just resist the urge. Please, for me, keep the phone out of sight. Be all in, because presence is so rare, and that's what makes it feminine. Let's talk about point number 9, which is one of the simplest habits that instantly shifts your energy, which is putting your napkin on your lap. It sounds old school, right? I'm sure all of you know about this, but not a lot of you do it. And if you do, that's great. Continue doing it because it's a very feminine habit. This is just one of those things that your grandma would remind you to do. But this tiny gesture does way more than just keep your outfit clean. It sets the tone. It says, I am here to be present and I'm not rushing. I'm not grabbing food like it's survival mode. I'm sitting down to enjoy this moment, and that's the energy. It's also one of those things where people don't notice if you do it, but they absolutely notice when you don't do it. It's kind of like posture. You can get away with bad posture, but good posture makes you stand out. Same with the napkin. It's a little habit that signals grace, self-awareness, and attention to detail without saying a word. The moment you sit down at a restaurant or dinner table, just take that napkin and gently place it on your lap. Not in a dramatic way, just like, okay, I'm here, I'm settled. And it instantly grounds you. You're no longer grabbing bites on autopilot. You're in the moment, making the meal feel intentional instead of rushed. And here's the secret. These little habits, they add up. They train your nervous system to slow down. They remind you that you're not here to perform or hustle through dinner. You're here to enjoy, to receive, and that's feminine energy. It also helps that if something spills because life happens, you're covered, literally. So next time you sit down to eat, whether it's at a fancy restaurant or even brunch with friends casually, take a second, place the napkin on your lap, and notice how different the moment feels. It's the tiniest act of self-respect, but it changes everything. All right, point number 10. This one might ruffle a few feathers, but hear me out with love. We have to talk about dressing too sporty when going out. I know that athleisure life is addictive. Trust me, I live in leggings when I'm at home, and nothing beats a cozy hoodie. But if I'm stepping out, even just for coffee or a quick dinner, I always try to remind myself, do I want to blend in or do I want to show up like I respect the moment? Because here's the truth. The effort shows. When you swap your gym sneakers for a cute pair of loafers or trade the zip-up hoodie for a long coat or an oversized blazer, it changes your whole entire vibe. You go from I'm just running errands to I'm living life like it matters. And it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. People always make this point. You don't need heels or a dress. You just need intention. I've had those moments where I wore a matching sweatsuit and felt like kind of invisible, even frumpy. Then I've had other moments where I wore the same ponytail and joggers but threw on a trench coat and earrings and suddenly felt elevated. It's not about impressing strangers. It's about what energy you bring into the room. Think of it like this. If you ran into someone important, like a future boss, an ex, your crush's mom, would you feel confident in what you're wearing? If yes, amazing. If not, maybe the hoodie can wait for the couch. Again, this isn't about dressing up for others, it's about dressing with pride in yourself. And when you start to treat every outing like it matters, even the grocery run, your life starts to feel a little more cinematic and a little more you. Point number 11 is about how to use a fork and spoon gracefully. Yes, obviously everyone knows how to use them, but not in that elegant, quiet kind of way where your movements are smooth, minimal, and you don't look like you're trying to win a race with your food. I remember sitting across from someone who once just glided through her meal. She didn't stab at her food and she didn't shovel. It was her wrist movements. They were soft and everything just flowed. And I was like, wait, how do I get that? And it made me realize how much etiquette is about the energy you bring, not just the rules. When you hold your fork and spoon like tools and not weapons, there's this femininity in the way that you eat. It's calm, it's intentional, and it's low-key attractive. Not in a sexual way, but in a she carries herself well kind of way. Little habits like not clinking your cutlery too loud or cutting one bite at a time instead of sawing through the entire plate or gently scooping instead of scraping, they seem small, but they tell a lot about you. And honestly, it's not about impressing anyone. It's about you feeling composed in any room, at any dinner, whether you're with your friends, your partner's family, or at some random networking thing with finger foods and awkward vibes. It's such a simple shift, but it makes you feel so put together. So if you've never thought twice about how you handle a fork and spoon, maybe today's your sign. It's not about perfection. It's just about presence. Finally, moving on to the last point number 12, let's talk about looking put together. And before your brain goes to, I don't have time to be on 24/7, just know that's not what I'm about to say, because looking put together isn't about glam, expensive clothes, or spending 2 hours getting ready. It's about intention. That's literally it. There is a kind of unspoken confidence that comes from knowing you took 5 extra minutes to brush your hair, steam your shirt, or throw on a cute earring. Even if nobody says anything, you feel the difference. It's about showing up for yourself in those little moments where it would be easier to just not care. For me, it's about asking, if someone bumped into me right now, someone important, someone I admire, someone I love, would I be okay with how I'm presenting myself? Not in a perfectionist way, but in a self-respect kind of way. Like, yeah, I'm proud of how I've shown up today. And honestly, when you're dressed with intention, you move differently. You're less likely to slouch. You're more likely to make eye contact. You don't suddenly feel the need to apologize for being seen. I actually feel nicer. But you become that girl who looks like she has her life together. And the secret is, it's not because she's flawless, it's because she's thoughtful. So that was obviously a lot, but also kind of soothing, right? Because here's the thing, none of these habits are about being perfect. And you're not going to remember to put your napkin on your lap every single time. You might still cuss when you're passionate or show up 5 minutes late to brunch because your hair just wouldn't cooperate. Listen, that's life. But what we're really talking about here isn't about rules, it's about presence. It's about the energy you bring into the room before you even speak. It's about showing up in a way that feels aligned, soft but strong, warm but grounded, kind but not performative. And feminine etiquette, it's not about shrinking yourself or impressing strangers. It's about quiet power. It's about the way you hold yourself, the way you move, the way you respond when no one's watching. These habits, from how you eat to how you dress to how you say no, they're not for anyone else's approval. They're for you. Because when you choose intention over impulse, softness over stress, or composure over chaos, you start to feel different, more clear, more steady, more you. So whether you take one habit from today's episode or all of them, I hope it gives you a little permission to move slower, speak softer, and show up like the woman you already are deep, deep down. And if this episode made you think of someone like a friend, a sister, someone on their own feminine journey, send it to them. Share the little gems, and that's how we all grow together. To everyone else, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you so, so much, and I can't wait to chat with you again in next week's episode. Lots of love, Parmis.